Hi guys, good day. I'm Kenneth J, and for this video I'll be discussing about Dpwh Bluebook item 500 to 504. So to those who don't know what is Dpwh Bluebook, Dpwh Bluebook is a construction of government infrastructure facilities of the highest quality. So this book siya tong mga nagasets of standards for our construction materials, and it's also teach us on how we properly install our equipments. Item 500, pipe culverts and storm drains. So based sa pictures mo na siya mga pipe culverts. So ang pipe culvert is a structure that allows water to flow under a road, railroad, or etc. So a culvert is maybe made from pipe or reinforced concrete or other materials. And the storm drains is an infrastructure designed to drain excess rain and groundwater from the impervious surfaces such as paved streets, parking lots, and etc. So, let's move on. Description. This item shall consist of construction or reconstruction of pipe culverts and storm drains, hereinafter referred to as conduit. In accordance with this specification and in conformity with the lines and grades shown on the plans or as established by the engineer. Material requirements. Material shall meet the requirements specified in the following specification. For this part, it just tell us the standards materials for for a certain project or standard materials that we will use, and you can see it in my written reports. Construction requirements. So, construction requirements, ito yung mga dapat gawin kung saan siya buhaton pag-apply sa mga materyales. So, trenches excavation. Trenches shall be excavated in accordance with the requirement of item 103. Structure excavation to a width sufficient to allow for proper jointing of the conduit and thorough compaction of bedding and backfill materials under and around the conduit. Where feasible, trench shall be vertical. So, the completed trench bottom shall be firm for its full length and width. Where required in the case of crop drains, the trench shall have a longitudinal camber of the magnitude specified. So when specified in the plans, the excavation for conduits placed in embankment field shall be made after the embankment has been completed to the specified or directed height above the design grade of the conduit. Bedding. The bedding shall conform to one of the classes specified. So there are three classes of bedding, no? Class A, Class B, Class C. If when no bedding class is specified, the requirements for Class C bedding shall apply. So, kung wala siya nahatag, dapat Class C na yun, no? Class A bedding shall consist of continuous concrete cradle conforming to the plan details, while Class B bedding shall consist of bedding the conduit to a depth of not less than 30% of the vertical outside diameter of the conduit. The minimum thickness of the bedding material beneath the pipe shall be 100 mm. The bedding material shall be sand or selected sandy soil, all of which passes a 9.5 mm sieve and not more than 10% of which passes a 0.75 mm sieve. The layer of the bedding material shall be shaped to fit the conduit for at least 50% of its total height. Recesses in the trench bottom shall be shaped to accommodate the bell when bell and spigot type conduit is used. Class C bedding shall consist of bedding the conduit to a depth of not less than 10% of its total height. The foundation surface completed in accordance with item 103 structure excavation shall be shaped to fit the conduit and shall have recesses shaped to receive the bells, if any. So for flexible pipe, the bed shall be roughly and a bedding blanket of sand or fine granular materials as specified shall be provided as follows. So if pipe congregation depth, so na siya 10 mm, ang minimum bedding depth niya kay 25 mm, if 25 mm, 50 mm, and 50 mm, 75 mm. So makita niyo to siya sa akong written report. And also for the large diameter structural plate pipes, the shape bed need not exceed the width of a bottom plate. Laying conduit. Uh, the conduit laying should begin at the downstream end of the conduit line. The lower segment of the conduit shall be in contact with the shape bedding throughout its full length. Bell or grooved ends of rigid conduits and outside circumferential laps of flexible conduits shall be placed facing upstream. Flexible conduits shall be placed with longitudinal laps. Paved or partially lined conduit shall be led such that the longitudinal center line of the paved segment coincides with the flow line. Elliptical and elliptically reinforced conduits shall be placed with the major axis within 5 degrees of a vertical plane through the longitudinal axis of conduit. Uh, it says that kanang unsaon lang siya and how we properly put down the conduit in the mga exact places kaniya kung saan na to pagbutang sa conduit no. Jointing conduit jointing conduit, rigid conduits may either be of bell and spigot or tongue and groove design unless another type is specified. The method of jointing conduit section shall be such that the ends are fully entered and the inner surfaces are reasonably flush and even. Joint shall be made with Portland cement mortar, Portland cement grout, rubber gaskets, I don't know how to read this, vacuum and mortar, vacuum and joint compound, plastic sealing compound, or by a combination of these types or any other type as may be specified. So kanang vacuum is a kuan na siya guys is a preparation of tarred fiber used to seal gaps. Mo na siya PC nga na balibo-balibo kana mo siya PC lang na basta mortar kanang mortar joints shall be made with an excess of mortar to form a continuous bed around the outside of the conduit and finish smooth on the inside. For grouted for the grouted joints, molds or runners shall be used to retain the poured grout. Rubber ring gasket shall be installed so as to form a flexible watertight seal. So where vacuum is used, the joint shall be coiled with this material and then sealed with the specified material. So when the Portland cement mixtures are used, the completed joints shall be protected against rapid drying by any suitable covering material. So for flexible conduits shall be firmly joined by coupling bands and conduits shall be inspected before any backfill is placed. So any pipe found to be out of alignment, unduly settled or damaged shall be taken up and relayed or replaced. Field strutting. So, when when required by the plans, vertical diameter of round flexible conduit shall be increased 5% by shaft elongation or by means of jacks applied after the interline of conduit has been installed on the bending but before backfilling. The vertical elongation shall be maintained by means of seals and struts or by horizontal ties shall be used on a paved invert pipe. So ties and struts shall be 300 mm in place until the embankment is completed and compacted unless otherwise shown on the plans. So this construction specification shall also apply in the case of relayed conduits. So in additional, all conduits salvaged for relaying shall be cleaned of all foreign materials prior to reinstallation. Backfilling. So kabalo naman taon sa ng backfilling, di ba? So nalang siya ay uh, proper na pag backfill diri yan ng ginagainan. So materials for backfilling on each side of the conduit for the full trench width and to an elevation of 300 mm above the top of the conduit shall be fine. Readily compactable soil or granular material selected from excavation or from a source of constructor's choice, and shall not contain stones that would be retained on a 50 mm sieve, chunks of highly plastic clay or other objectionable material. Granular backfill material shall have not less than 95% passing at 12 mm sieve and not less than 95% retained on 4.75 mm sieve. Oversized material, if present, shall be removed at the source of the material, except as directed by the engineer. Uh, Care shall be exercised to thoroughly compact the backfill under the hunches of the conduit. So the backfill shall be brought up evenly on the both sides of the conduit for the full required length, except where negative projecting embankment type insulation is specified. The backfill material shall be placed and compacted for the full depth of the trench. When the top of conduit is flush with or below the top of the trench, backfill materials shall be placed at or near optimum moisture content and compacted in layers not exceeding 150 mm, compacted on both sides to an elevation 300 mm above the top of conduit. So, compaction to the density is specified in item 104. Embankment shall be achieved by use of mechanical tampers or by rolling. All conduits after being bedded and backfill as specified in this subsection shall be protected by 1 meter cover of fill before heavy equipment is permitted to cross during construction of the roadway. Imperfect trench. Under this method, for rigid conduit, the embankment shall be completed as described in subsection 500.3.6. Backfilling to a height above the conduit equal to the vertical outside diameter of the conduit plus 300 mm. A trench equal in width to the outside horizontal diameter of the conduit and to the length shown on the plans or as directed by the engineer shall then be excavated to within 300 mm of the top of the conduit. Trench walls being as nearly vertical as possible. So, and also, the trench shall be loosely filled with highly compressive soil. Construction of embankment above shall then proceed in a normal manner. Method of measurement. So, conduit of the different types and sizes, both new and relayed, will be measured by the linear meter in place. Conduit with slope or skewed ends will be measured along the invert. So each section will be measured by the number of units installed. When when the bid schedule contains an estimated quantity for furnishing and placing backfill material, pipe culvert, the quantity to be paid for will be the number of cubic meter completed in the place and accepted, measured in the final position between limits as follows. So, number one is measurement shall include backfill material in the trench up to the top of the original ground line, but will not include any material placed outside of vertical planes 450 mm up outside of and parallel to the inside wall of pipe at its widest horizontal dimension. So number 2 is when the original ground line is less than 300 mm above the top of the pipe, the measurement will also include the placing of all backfill materials above the original ground line adjacent to the pipe for a height of 300 mm above the top of pipe and for a distance on each side of the pipe not greater than the widest horizontal dimension of the pipe. So, um, a branch connection and elbows will be included in the length measurement for conduit, or they may be measured by the number of units installed. For Class B bedding, material placed and approved shall be measured by the cubic meter in place. The measurement shall include the placing of backfill material in all trenches of the imperfect trench method. Materials re-excavated for imperfect trench construction will be measured by pavement under item 103, structural excavation. So item 501, under drains. So under drains guys, so kung tama ba na akong pictures na kuha, I thought murag under drains. Drainage feature installed underground to collect subsurface water and transport it to a surface outlet. Under drains can be used in a number of road drainage applications and can be sized to handle site-specific flow volumes. Both both prefabricated and constructed underdrains are usually wrapped in geotextile fabric to allow water to enter the conduit while keeping sediment out. Sediment out. Description: this item shall consist of constructing underdrains using pipe and granular filter materials, underdrain pipes outlets, and blind drains using granular materials in accordance with this specification and in reasonably close conformity with the lines and grades shown on the plans or established by the engineer. So material requirements, material shall meet the requirements specified in the following specification. So kani siya, makita gyapon ninyo siya sa ako ang written reports na dito ang mga requirements sa each materials kung pasado ba siya sa ato ang kung unsa bay karapat dapat gamiton. So construction requirements for pipe installation, trenches shall be excavated to the dimensions and grades required by the plans or as directed by the engineer. A minimum of 150 mm bedding layer of granular backfill material shall be placed and compacted at the bottom of the trench for its full width and length. Sub-drainage pipe of the type and size specified shall be embedded firmly in the bedding material. Perforated pipe shall normally be placed with the perforations downs and the pipe sections shall be joined securely with the appropriate coupling fittings or bands. Non-perforated pipe shall be laid with the bell end upgrade and with open joints wrapped with suitable material to permit entry of water or unwrap as may be specified. Upgrade end sections of all sub-drainage pipe installation shall be closed with suitable plugs to prevent entry of soil materials. So, so in this case, after the pipe installation has been inspected and approved, granular backfill materials shall be placed to a height of 300 mm above the top of 300 mm above the top of the pipe of a pipe. So care shall be taken not to displace the pipe or the covering at the open joints. The remainder of the granular backfill materials shall then be placed and compacted in 100 mm maximum layers to the required height. Any remaining portion of trench above the granular backfill shall be filled with either granular or impervious materials as may be specified and thoroughly compacted. Under drains outlet. Trenches for under drain outlet shall be excavated to the width and depth shown on the plans, whereas otherwise directed. Pipes shall be laid in the trench with all ends firmly joined by the applicable methods and means. After inspection and approvals of the pipe installation, the trench shall be backfilled in accordance with item 103 structure excavation. An underground outlet or under drain, I think same na sila. Muna siya is a conduit na siya that is conduit installed beneath the surface of the ground to convey runoff to a suitable outlet. Yun, nabalik. Blind drain. Trenches for blind drain shall be excavated to the width and depth shown on the plans. The trench shall be filled with granular backfill material to the depth required by the plans, and any remaining upper portion of trench shall be filled with either granular or impervious material in accordance with item 103 structure excavation. Mga blind drain kay kato gyud po ng asa mga agyanan gyud sa tubig. Method of measurement. Uh, Under drains and outlets shall be measured by the linear meter for pipe of the type and size specified. Blind drains shall be measured by the linear meter, including all excavation and backfill materials required. So, ang granular a granular backfill filter materials when specified in the contract as pay item shall be measured in place by the cubic meter, completed and accepted. Cross-sectional measurements will not exceed the net dimensions shown on the plans or as directed by the engineer. The excavation for under-drain pipe will be measured and paid for as provided in item 103 structure excavation. Item 502, manholes, inlets, and catch basins. So, sa mga pictures, muna siyang type of manholes. Types of types of manholes, inlets, and catch basins. So, sa pictures, muna siyang example sa manholes o catch basin. So ang manholes is a opening is an opening to confine space such as shaft, utility vault, or large vessel. Manholes are often used as an access point for an underground public utility, allowing inspection, maintenance, and system upgrades. A catch basin is an engineered drainage structure with the sole function of collecting rainwater and snow melt from streets or in parking lots and transporting it to local waterways through a system of underground piping, culverts, and or drainage ditches. Catch basin can be found on a public or a private property. Description. This item shall consist of construction, reconstruction, or adjustment of manholes, inlets, and catch basins in accordance with the specifications, and reasonably close conformity with the lines and grades shown on the plans or established by the engineer. Material requirements. Concrete for this structure shall meet the requirements of item for structural concrete. Other materials shall meet the following specifications. So this sa ako sa akong written report, so tanawalan ninyo para may balan niyo kung unsay mga requirements sa iyang materials. Construction requirements. Concrete construction shall conform to the requirements for item 405 structural concrete. Metal frames shall be set in full mortar bed. Pipe sections shall be flush on the inside of the structure wall and projected outside sufficiently for proper connection with next pipe section. Masonry shall fit neatly and tightly around the pipe. When grade adjustment or existing structures is specified, the frames, covers, and gratings shall be removed and the walls reconstructed as required. The cleaned frame shall be reset at the required elevation. Upon completion, each structure shall be cleaned of any accumulation of silt, debris, or foreign matter of any kind and shall be kept clear of such accumulation until final acceptance of the work. So excavation and backfill shall be done in accordance with the item 103 structure in excavation. Method of measurement. Standards manholes, inlets, and catch basins, both new and reconstructed as applicable, will be measured by the unit. Any additional concrete reinforcing steel or masonry required for unauthorized increases in heights of structures paid of under this item and excess of standard side shown on the plans will be measured and paid for the under item 405. Structural concrete in item 404, reinforcing steel, as applicable, structure noted, the plans as junction boxes will be measured for payment as manholes. The number of concrete covers, pairs of metals, frames, and gratings, and pairs of metal frames and covers will be measured as acceptably completed. The number of existing manholes, inlets, and catch basins adjusted as directed will be measured as acceptably completed. Drainage steel grating with frame. So sa pictures muna to ang mga drainage na may mga frame, steel frame. So description. This item shall consist of furnishing all materials, tools, and equipment including labor required in undertaking the proper application of steel grating with frame as shown on the plans and in accordance with the specification. Classes and uses of road grates and frames. Classes of grates that are commonly used in drainage work are sump, trench, and box. So, ang sump, mura gapon na siya box ug itsura gyapon. Mura same lang anang box. Pero ang sump lang kay murag wala siya katong walay mosalo sa sulod sa ilalom. So sumps grates shall be used to create a trafficable ground level entry area for surface rainwater to flow into the underground stormwater drainage system. Ang trench grates shall be used to collect surface rainwater runoff from areas that cannot be graded to direct flow into a single pit. Ang box grates or road drainage shall be used to transfer road surface stormwater into an underground drainage system. Sump grades can be used some grades shall be used in paved or grass areas that are graded to direct the surface water to a single pit or to series of pits. Some grades shall be plain or hinged. Ang box naman is normally used in conjunction with curved entry. So in the addition of the grates significantly increases the hydraulic capacity of the inlet, particularly on steep slopes. In strength, classification, and loading condition for some trench and box grates. So ato ilang mga siguro pasutan sa mga kaya nila na sa frame ni anang makaya na madaog sa bakal yata. So we have 5 classification. No? Class A, the test load 10 km ay 10 kilonewton. Class B, test load 80 kilonewton. Class C is test load 150 kilonewton. Class D, test load 210 kilonewton. And Class E, F, or G, 400 kN, 600 kN, or 900 kN. So for Class A, kani siya for locations, this is for the locations traffic only by pedestrians and wheelchairs and cyclists and accessible to motor vehicles by virtue of barriers, narrow passages or step or unpaved approaches. Ang Class B naman is For locations normally trafficked by pedestrians and slow-moving passenger cars or light agricultural tractors, uh, these locations include areas accessible to a frequent slow-moving heavy trucks. Typical locations include footpaths, ground level, and multi-storied car parks, suburban driveways, and backyards. For Class C, for locations traffic uh, by slow-moving, fully laden trucks such as pedestrians, malls, and industrial or commercial areas. For the Class D is for locations traffic by fast-moving, fully laden trucks and forklifts with wheel loads to 5.0 tons tons yata. This includes all public roads from residential to freeway. So bugat kay mo ni siyang tibay kayo. Magian og mga truck na dagko. So for Class E, F or G, test load 400 kN and 600 kN or 900 kN for locations subject to vehicles such as large forklifts, earth moving, or container handling equipment and aircraft. Typical location include verbs, container storage areas, heavy industry or construction sites, and domestic or international airports. All loading conditions specified are applicable to the three classes of grades depending on their specific uses and locations. Materials requirements. So, steel grating. The steel grating shall be made of fabricated mild steel provided with hot dip galvanized in accordance with ASTM A153-2M232 for superior corrosion protection. Steel grating shall be machine made. Grating comprised of steel flat bars standing on edge spaced from each other. To prevent them from in order to prevent them from falling over and to provide restraint in buckling, twisted cross rod 6 mm is forged welded into the top of the flat bars. So steel frame, the steel frame tier openings of drainage grids shall be 15 mm larger than nominal sizes of industry standard size pits. These pits increase in size in increments of 150 mm. Um, this shall be done to allow frames to be placed over standard panel formwork and cast in while pouring the pit walls to speeds up installation and ensure the frame is fully embedded in the concrete. Drainage grade sizes. The drainage grades shall be identified by their internal tier opening dimensions of the frame. For square and rectangular grades, the normal convention shall be width x length. Metal units shall conform to the approved plan dimensions and specification requirement for the designation material. So, grade shall consist of 25 mm to 65 mm by 3 mm, 4.5 mm or 5 mm thick flat bars with length of not more than 6.1 meter, spaced at 30 mm, with 6 mm twisted rod spaced at 100 mm. Angular frame shall be coated with hot dip galvanized for superior corrosion protection, finish, and extended life. If required, I-beam support shall be provided in the grades in accordance with the approved plan, and it shall also conform to the requirements of ASTM A153 or its equivalents to M232. Joint mortar. All materials for mortars shall meet the requirements of item 405, structural concrete. Structural concrete use shall attain a minimum 28-day compressive strength of 20.682 MPa or 3000 psi. So unless otherwise indicated on the plans, joint mortar shall be composed of one part of Portland cement and two parts of fine aggregate by volume, to which hydrated lime has been added in an amount equal to 10% of the cement by weight. So construction requirements. Yun ang sa tubig, guys. Construction requirements. Concrete construction shall conform to the requirements for item 405 structural concrete. Metal gratings which are to rest on frames shall bear on them evenly. They shall be assembled before shipment and so marked that the same pieces may be reassembled readily in the same position when installed. An accuracy of bearings shall be corrected by machining if necessary. The steel grating and its corresponding frame shall constitute one pair. So, when grade uh, when grade adjustment or existing drainage grade is specified, the frames and steel gratings shall be removed and the walls shall be reconstructed as required. So the clean frames shall be reset at the required elevation. Upon completion, each drainage grate shall be cleaned of any accumulations of silt, debris, or foreign matter of any kind, and clear uh, shall be kept clear of such accumulation until the final acceptance of the work. Acceptance requirement. A sufficient number of cylinders for concrete construction shall be cast from the concrete for each unit for compression tests at 7 to 14 and 28 days, and to allow for at least 3 cylinders for each test if the strength requirement is met at 7 or 14 days. The unit shall be certified for use 14 days from the date of casting. If the strength is not met at 28 days, shall units made from the batch or load will be rejected. So the steel grating plants will be inspected periodically for compliance with specified manufacturing and fabricating methods, and bar samples will be obtained for laboratory testing for compliance with material quality requirements. So all draining grades materials shall be subjected to inspection for acceptance as condition at the latest practice practicable time the engineer has the opportunity to check for compliance prior to or during incorporation of materials into the work. Cleaning and reconditioning existing drainage structures. Description, this item shall consist of cleaning and reconditioning existing pipes and pertinent structures in reasonably close conformity with this specification as shown on the plans. Material requirements. Material used for repair or replacement under the various pay items shall confirm the requirements of the applicable items of these specifications. Ah. Construction requirements. Pipe remove. So, bali, murag, ano na siya, murag, kay ang tong title ano niya kay maglimpyo, cleaning and reconditioning existing drainage. Mga existing drainage, limpyuhan daw. So, unsa mga methods ni konson paglimpyo. Properly clean the mga equipment. So, pipe removed and cleaned. The pipe shall be carefully removed and cleaned of foreign materials both within the barrel and at the joint ends. So, pipe cleaned in place. All foreign materials within the barrel shall be removed and disposed of by methods which will prevent damage to the pipe. Uh, if approved by the engineer, All or part of the pipe designated to be cleaned in place may be removed, cleaned, and relayed in accordance with the applicable items. In such cases, the contractor shall furnish all materials required to replace damaged pipes and joints and perform all excavation and backfill and relay the pipe and all at the contract bid price for this item. Relaying or stockpiling salvage pipe. Relaying of pipe selected by the engineer to be removed and cleaned shall be done as shown on the plans. In accordance with the appropriate item for the kind of pipe involved, the contractor shall furnish all jointing materials and shall replace the pipe broken by him in sufficient lengths to complete the designated length to be relayed without added compensation. Salvage pipe to be stock-filled shall be placed as shown on the plans and as directed by the engineer. No pipe which has sustained structural damage shall be placed in stockpiles. So the contractor shall dispose of such damaged pipes at an approved locations. Reconditioning drainage structures, structures such as manholes, inlets, and the likes designated on the plans or as directed by the engineer to be reconditioned shall have all debris removed, leaks repaired, missing or broken metalwork replaced, and each structure left in operation condition. So, sabta naman siya kay sa paglimpyo ram sa mga to ang mga pipes, sa to ang drainage. So, method of measurement. Measurement will be made by a linear meter of pipe acceptably cleaned, removed, relayed, or stockpiled as designated in the bill of quantities, irrespective of the kind or size involved. Pipe removed, cleaned, and relayed will be measured in their final position, and pipe removed, cleaned, and stockpiled will be measured by totaling the nominal laying lengths of all pipe units acceptably removed and cleaned and placed in the stockpile. Pipe cleaned in place will be measured along the flow line of the pipeline acceptably cleaned as directed. Measurement of drainage structures reconditioned will be made by actual count of the total numbers of units of each type acceptably completed. So, end of presentation. Thank you. That's all.